Realtor Taguchi's face looks out over East Toronto from her billboard, and today she's looking for answers.
We all were shocked what happened.
Gucci, one of some 2,400 realtors, surprised they cannot access huge sums of client deposits and commissions. Almost $1 million across her team, all of it in the trust account of IPro Realty. The IPro account now frozen.
They don't have money to pay their mortgages. Those that are affected, they don't have money to buy houses.
Hi, Rui Alves, CEO of IPro Realty.
The co-founders of IPro, Roy Alves and Fideli Colucci, illegally transferred $10.5 million out of the brokerage trust account, according to an investigation by the Real Estate Council of Ontario in May, its largest breach ever. While the pair were disciplined, they were not charged or fined by Registrar Joe Richer. Alves was a former RICO board member.
In the meantime, about $720 million of new real estate transactions took place, which all had deposits, which went into this trust account, which was shown to be tampered with.
Everyone has been warning for years that Canada's housing market was a ticking time bomb, and now the explosion has arrived. Prices kept climbing to heights ordinary families could never reach. While Ottawa kept repeating the same line, everything is fine. But that illusion has shattered. A $10 million fraud scandal has ripped through the housing market, freezing deals and shattering confidence. And at the very center of it all stands Prime Minister Mark Carney, the man once sold to Canadians as the steady banker who could handle any crisis. Now, instead of projecting calm leadership, he's the one ducking for cover. Investors are on edge. Homeowners are furious. And across the country, Canadians are realizing how badly they've been misled. What began as whispers about questionable brokerage practices has now erupted into a national scandal. And rather than stepping forward to provide clarity, Carney is avoiding responsibility, dodging press conferences, and when forced to face questions, lashing out in angry outbursts that only deepen public mistrust. Here's the reality of what went down. The brokerage at the center of this firestorm is IPro Realty. One of Ontario's largest players, this isn't some small neighborhood office. This is a firm handling hundreds of millions of dollars in transactions every year. Families trusted them with their down payments, and realtors built entire livelihoods around them. Yet now, all of that credibility has gone up in flames. More than $10.50. $2 million was siphoned straight out of trust accounts. Accounts that were supposed to safeguard deposits and commissions until deals were closed. In the blink of an eye, money that buyers believed was locked away for their dream homes simply vanished. And the ripple effect is staggering. Nearly $700 million worth of pending real estate transactions are now frozen. That freeze means sales are stalled mortgages can't be finalized, and realtors who only earn once deals officially closer left, stranded without paychecks. On the ground, you hear the same desperate stories, families in panic as deals collapse, and agents asking whether they'll even be able to pay rent this month. Some are already threatening to take their anger straight to the regulators. Offices in protests. And for Carney, the timing couldn't be worse. With economic uncertainty and international pressures already mounting, this scandal is the last thing his government needed. Instead of focusing on solutions, Carney has been busy trying to score points abroad, shouting at Washington, chasing trade disputes, and demanding military support, all while Canadians at home are wondering why their life savings are trapped in frozen accounts. The frustration boils down to this. Scandals can happen anywhere, but this one was supposed to be impossible. Ontario's real estate system was designed with strict rules. Brokerages were required to hold client funds in protected trust accounts, regularly audited and tightly monitored. On paper, it looked foolproof. Yet, here we are, over $10 million gone, oversight apparently asleep at the wheel. When the news finally broke, the Real Estate Council of Ontario swooped in, suspending IPro's license, freezing accounts, and issuing a generic press release promising review. But for families now facing homelessness or realtors unable to pay bills, that response wasn't reassurance. It was damage control. The deeper issue is clear. Regulators weren't regulating, watchdogs became lapdogs, and now the public is paying the price. And Carney's reaction, instead of explaining how his government's oversight allowed this to happen, he turned the narrative on its head, blaming reckless agents and even so-called public panic. In other words, the problem isn't the missing millions. It's that Canadians are upset about it. Behind closed doors, insiders say Carney has been throwing tantrums, lashing out at ministers, and demanding answers. But anger doesn't restore confidence. Rage doesn't unfreeze accounts. And shouting certainly doesn't pay back the millions that families and agents are now missing. Asterisk.
Was registrar no longer at his post. Now Rico has hired a law firm to conduct an audit. And late Friday, Ontario Minister Stephen Crawford weighed in, saying if he's not satisfied with the audit, he will not hesitate to take further measures, including through the appointment of an administrator to assume control of Rico. Realtor Naz Mohseni says she has $150,000 frozen and says she's been advised to make an insurance claim.
This is not a joke. They have dropped the ball so badly to play with people's financial life.
Gucci says the fund should be managed by a trustee, so realtors and clients can get some money back now.
They should put a trustee right now to pay immediately.
And Gucci says she's left IPro or the new brokerage iCloud behind. She's signed up with Remax. Rico responded in a statement that they welcome the scrutiny and the chance to restore trust in their system. Some realtors say if they don't have access to their funds soon, they will protest the Rico offices. John Woodward, CTV News, Toronto.
Too many ordinary Canadians. The picture is becoming painfully clear. Their Prime Minister is losing his grip. First it was trade, then national defense, and now the collapse of the very housing market that millions of families depend on. Each failure feeds into the next, creating a sense that the government no longer has control of the basics. While Canada scrambles to contain a deepening housing crisis, the contrast across the border couldn't be sharper. The U.S. property market is running hot, sales are strong, investors are confident, and optimism is spreading. That difference hasn't gone unnoticed. In fact, President Donald Trump has been quick to seize the moment, holding up Canada's turmoil as proof of America's resilience and strength. And that's what stings the most for Canadians. At home, they see frozen deposits, collapsing deals, and regulators asleep at the wheel. Abroad, they see their country being used as the negative example, a warning sign of what happens when leadership falters. Meanwhile, Trump is more than happy to spotlight Canada's housing disaster as evidence that Washington is doing things right while Ottawa is spiraling. For Carney, this isn't just a domestic scandal anymore. It's becoming an international embarrassment. Every new headline about frozen accounts and broken oversight chips away not only at Canadian confidence, but at the country's global reputation. The message is clear. While America is selling stability, Canada is broadcasting chaos. Asterisk.
I'm fortunate that I bought in before the prices skyrocketed, really. I mean, there's no way I could own now, even with a good job.
I own a house in Markham, but because I am working very early in the morning downtown, so I rented a place in downtown so I can walk to my workplace.
Yeah, I live within the city. The reason being that right now for you to own a house in Toronto is close to impossible. You have to put the down payment of about $1 billion, to be honest. But yeah, we have to do what we have to do to survive. And honestly, the government should do something about it.
I live in the city because I can't afford to buy a home. Not that I can really afford renting either. It's pretty up there. It's kind of the lesser of the two evils, I guess.
I technically rent, but a relative of mine does own the place that I live in, and so I do have a little bit of a discount there.
In statement after statement, President Trump has hammered the point home. Canada's frozen deposits and regulatory failures are proof that Ottawa can't manage its own affairs, while American systems remain strong and secure, and the contrast couldn't be more stark. In Washington, Trump is toasting rising markets, bullish investors, and growing confidence. In Ottawa, Mark Carney is staring down a scandal that doesn't just threaten homeowners and realtors, it threatens the credibility of his entire government. What began as a $10 million fraud inside a brokerage trust account has now snowballed into something much larger, an international embarrassment. For everyday Canadians, the comparison is crushing. The message Trump is broadcasting is simple. America is thriving. Canada is stumbling. Every frozen deposit, every collapsed deal, every delayed home closing sends the same signal again and again that Canada is slipping into chaos under leadership that's lost control. This isn't only about lost savings anymore. It's become a symbol of national vulnerability, both at home and in the eyes of the world. Investors abroad are paying close attention, and they're not impressed. Analysts in New York, London, and Hong Kong are recalculating their exposure to Canadian real estate, treating what was once a safe, stable market as an unpredictable risk. Confidence that seemed like a guarantee has suddenly turned fragile. Meanwhile, Ottawa's response has been slow and reactive. Regulators only moved to hire auditors after the scandal broke, not before. Ontario's housing minister has already warned that if the audit falls short, he'll take extraordinary measures, even placing the regulator under direct provincial control. Other provinces are watching closely, worried the same mismanagement could spill into their own markets. And here lies the deeper political fracture. The scandal is sparking a new debate over whether provinces should seize more power to protect homeowners and realtors rather than waiting for Ottawa to stumble again. It's rare to see local and federal tensions flare this openly, but when trust in national oversight evaporates, leaders at every level start scrambling for their own solutions. At the center of it all is Carney himself. He still holds the title of Prime Minister, but more and more Canadians are asking if he actually holds the reins. Because when a housing scandal grows into an international crisis, when watchdogs fail, when public trust collapses, titles matter less than leadership. And right now, leadership is exactly what seems to be missing. This has been the Inside Scoop, where we dig deeper than the headlines and expose the stories others won't touch. If you found this breakdown useful, don't forget to like the video, share it with others who follow Canadian politics, and subscribe to stay ahead of the spin. The story isn't over, and we'll be here to keep pulling back the curtain.